By the fall of 2008, soon after the Carters and Sautner's water went bad, stories began circulating about other suspect water wells next to drilling operations in Dimock, Pennsylvania. Pat Farnelli said her water had a foul taste and that it was making her kids sick. Michael Ely, Scott's cousin and next-door neighbor, could light his water on fire when he placed it in a jug. Ken Ely was worried that chemicals from the waste pits and storage tanks on his land were polluting the spring that supplied his water and fed his pond where he fished. And he was growing impatient with state inspectors who were unable or unwilling to validate his complaints. Despite warnings from residents, state inspectors remained ignorant of problems in Cabot's oil patch until an event on New Year's Day 2009 put them on notice. A blast echoed through the hills. A mile north of Cabot's Guessford 3 gas well, concrete dust billowed from the ground and hung in the frigid air over the ruins of Norma Fiorentino's water well. The explosion at Norma's property was caused by methane migration, according to a subsequent investigation by the State Department of Environmental Protection, a phenomenon that occurs when natural gas, forced by pressure naturally occurring in the earth or introduced by crews trying to extract it, ends up in places where it's unintended. Unlike a blowout, when gas overcomes a pressure barrier and erupts sensationally from the opening of a well, methane migration involves gas forced through the ground along the path of least resistance. That path, often beginning with a faulty well casing designed to seal off the aquifer from the wellbore, leads to basements, wellheads, crawl spaces, and aquifers. Methane migration is often imperceptible at first, a fact that makes it deadly. Much of what officials knew about the dangers of methane migration they had learned years before Norma's well exploded, from more costly instances. The state had files on more than 50 other cases over a period of 5 years. All involved dangerous and sometimes fatal accumulations of gas migrating from new or abandoned wells into enclosed spaces. They happened before the Pennsylvania shale gas rush became big news, and they gained relatively little public attention. On March 5th, when their furnace kicked on, an explosion leveled the house and killed Charles Harper, his wife Dorothy, and their grandson Bailey. A report by the Pittsburgh Geological Society includes a photograph of the scene, a foundation covered by charred rubble, and the shells of burnt-out automobiles in the driveway. In July 2008, an explosion killed a resident of Marion Township who tried to light a candle in the bathroom. The Department of Environmental Protection record of the event, 1 paragraph long, states that the agency became aware of the problem after the fatality, which it linked to gas migrating into the septic system from an old gas well with deteriorated casing. For every fatality in the DEP files, there are dozens of close calls, evacuations, injuries, and water problems. Where there is a path for methane to move through the ground, there is sometimes a path for other contaminants, both man-made and naturally occurring. Shortly after the Dimock problems came to light, the DEP began receiving a rash of complaints involving murky and foul-smelling tap water near other drilling operations in Bradford Township, a municipality 200 miles west of Dimock along the northern border of Pennsylvania. Investigators found methane in 2 wells and levels of iron and manganese above safe drinking water standards in 5 others on Hedgehog Lane. They determined the problem was caused by overpressurized oil and gas wells. Lacking staff to oversee every site, inspectors must trust that companies will comply with measures to properly case, monitor, and control wells. To check this, they rely on a paper trail of well logs and completion reports. When problems arise, they face extensive field work to pinpoint the source and, when necessary, hold companies accountable. It wasn't until after Norma's well exploded that the DEP began a comprehensive field evaluation of Cabot's operation. With problems developing in Bradford County and elsewhere, a torrent of permits pouring in across Pennsylvania, and an absence of paperwork in Dimock, what inspectors didn't know was as significant as what they did. In Ken Ely's view, the inspectors always seemed to give Cabot Oil and Gas the benefit of a doubt.